Do you know who you're talking to? Really, do you know who your marketing is going towards? Like, who are you fully talking to? It's hard to do that if you don't understand how to relate and connect with people. So your marketing is missing the mark typically because you aren't listening and you're not fully inclusive in your communications. Speaking to people instead of truly listening and responding to their feedback and understanding where they come from. That is usually where your marketing is off, is the fact that it's not a two-way form of communication and there's very little, if any way, for you guys to relate. Let's get into making your marketing better, and truly one of the most important initiatives that actually fix a lot of problems factually, and why many companies are getting away from it, but it's a great opportunity for you to take advantage of where they're missing the mark. Let's get it. So it's a hot button topic. It's been a hot topic for the beginning of when it was first brought up and first being pushed and instituted. But it's nothing new. The fight for equality from a political standpoint, educational standpoint, from all aspects of life is nothing new, especially in the United States. But for some reason, there's still a need for these types of initiatives. And I say some reason, of course, I'm being facetious. Of course, we understand why. We know why these things are still necessary. And they are necessary because the numbers don't lie. See, when you have 45%, and I'm going to say a lot of numbers. I'm not going to try to lose you in the stats, but let's just keep it a bean. 45% of consumers, active consumers who spend thousands of dollars every single week just on basic consumer goods. Okay, nothing. We're not talking about rent. We're not talking about, paying bills. We're talking about on consumer goods, the stuff that you really don't need, but you want to buy. And we're the largest consumer group still in this world, right? In America. When 45% say they're willing to pay more, not necessarily pay the regular ticket price, they're willing to pay extra dollars to companies, to brands that promote and that are focused and actively market that they are part of DEI programs. That says something. 45%. Now take a step, take another step. 67% of consumers, 67%, way more than the majority, y'all, say that DEI is a critical factor when selecting a brand. That's what they're looking for. So if the consumer is telling you something, this goes back to listening to the market. This is where businesses, and I'm not talking large corporations, I'm talking to small businesses, because remember, small businesses, you guys are the majority of the employers. You guys are the reason a lot of people not only have jobs, but have the funds to go out and shop and spend money and keep economies going. The small business owner. And it is a fact when big businesses, big corporations, conglomerates, when they're falling off, people look towards small businesses 3 times more for their needs, whether it's groceries, health and beauty care products, apparel, doesn't matter. I mean, think about it. When you think of big corporations, big box, people love to say that they're all big corps or, big business. When was the last time you went to a big business mechanic? When was the last time you went to a big business and maybe a grocery store here and there? Yeah, that makes sense. But when was the last time you went to a big business restaurant? Still to this day, most restaurants, most places that we go out and eat, they're privately owned. Small businesses, family-owned businesses at that. So if you have a chance to capitalize and you have the opportunity to do what the big guns are not doing, to do what the big businesses aren't doing, to pick up where they're failing, and 67 consumers rather come to you, 45% of consumers are willing to pay more and come to you. Take advantage of it. It's all about competitive advantage. When we want to look at the numbers, when we look at the business, let's look at the business side of things. Because I'm not going to get political, because DEI is not political. It's more of a, let's be honest, more of an ethical standpoint than anything else. And for those who remember business ethics, hey, it plays a critical role in a lot of things that our consumers care about. But people want to take it political, which is fine. I'm not going there. I'm going to focus on how you as a business owner, you as an entrepreneur, have that opportunity to market, to connect, which is what marketing is all about, to really connect with your audience and show them that you authentically care. Because remember, this is 2025, and authenticity is what's shining through with a lot of brands. Don't believe the hype. Believe the facts. The facts is people care about authenticity more than anything else. So the more that businesses include diversity in their communication and their overall culture and their leadership, it reflects what they care about to their consumer. That majority that cares, that majority that wants to see these things. So what we're going to get to today, we're going to get into a couple points. First off, what is it, right? What is DEI and how does it relate to inclusive marketing? Then we're going to look at the current landscape of what's going on in the world. When I keep talking about how we've seen the papers, we've seen, oh my God, papers. So yes, I'm showing my age again. Okay, I'm sorry. Papers. I know I said newspapers. Nobody reads a newspaper anymore, which is messed up. Hopefully you're reading it at least on the tablet, something. Okay. So it's news digital, not newspaper. We got to come up with a new term, y'all, because newspaper don't even make no sense anymore. Anywho, the current landscape of things, because like I said, we've seen all the reports and what's going on, and it just keeps rolling. But then we're going to look at how these practices actually help businesses, because I only gave you what some consumers have said in numerous reports. But let's go to the actual numbers of how it impacts businesses from a financial standpoint, the actual financial numbers. And this is all, we're going to look at many different industries, because it's not just one industry it impacts, it's pretty much every industry. And then how it can impact your business, specifically some strategies, some techniques that you can implement that can help you and get the real lowdown and the breakdown of the whole thing. All right. So let's get into it. What's good, y'all? So what is DEI? DEI, I say that just the way it rolls. DEI, I got to make sure I say that right. DEI, because it rolls sometimes together. So among numerous experts, okay, and leaders that were conducted in this interview, most had a shared vision. And they had a very specific, they came together and they had a very specific vision, and it kind of sums it up very nicely. Because there's a bunch of different ways you can describe it, break it down, but wanted to give you a nice little summary of it. So basically, let's break down, of course, from top to bottom, but then also how it relates to different aspects of the business, right? So diversity, simply put, embracing the differences everyone brings to the table. Okay, whether it's the age, race, ethnicity, religion, gender, culture, doesn't matter. Embracing all those different aspects of social identity, which is what, like I brought up earlier, it's what has been fought for so long in all aspects of our country. It's just treating everyone fairly and providing equal opportunities. Then finally, inclusiveness is respecting everyone's voice and creating a culture in which people from all backgrounds feel encouraged to express their ideas and perspectives. Now, before I go farther, because I was going to jump into something else, let's think of something for a moment. I'm going to give you two corporations that come to mind when I think of inclusiveness, and I'll show you why it's very important to be inclusive. You ever heard of a little company called Google? One of the biggest things of why Google came up with it, and I hate to say it, but it feels like they're slowing down somewhere in innovation, and it could go to this. And yes, I said it. Google seems to be slowing down on innovation. They're getting a lot like another company I can think of, and I'll bring them up maybe, but they used to just push. And when I say push, I don't mean push like push you in the back. I mean push like more so encouragement, be very vocal to encourage. Think differently. Think outside the box. Bring in different ideas. There's no dumb idea. There's no stupid idea. There's no bad idea. They'll just, let's see the idea. Let's run with it. I remember one of the big things when I first got into really working with IT, and it was an engineer I knew. Like I said, I'm gonna go a whole nother story, but it was an engineer that I knew. And he used to say, the problem with project managers, and I was a project manager, so it kind of annoyed me. But he said, the problem with project managers is that they don't know the field that their project's in. Like, in other words, they know project management principles. They know Prince 2, or they know, PMI, they know stuff like that. But they're not the project manager with that skill set. So project manager web development is also a web developer. Once again, like I said, he was a software engineer, so he was coming from that angle, from dealing with PMs like that, and that's fair. That was his opinion. Google had the same idea. They had the same mindset. Hey, we want people who are subject matter experts, and the manager will rise to the top. So in other words, the person with the most skill set, but also the person with the most innovative ideas and the ideas that they wanted to push and could lead teams. I bring that up because you notice I didn't bring up anything about race. I didn't bring up anything about culture. I didn't bring up anything about gender. I didn't bring up anything else because those don't matter. Those don't matter. When a company wants to be very innovative, they're focusing on, do you have the skills? Do you have the knowledge? Do you have the talent? Yes. Do you have the education? I don't give a damn. Don't care about anything else, because that shouldn't matter. But what it can do, it can help you communicate better too. Because if we're creating a product, a service for a community, you want to hear voices from that community. You want to speak to people from that community. You want to listen to that community. And that's when companies, for lack of a better term, cut themselves off at the legs. They're trying to jump in a foot race and they just stop. They're like, you know what? I'm not even going to run. I'm not even going to try to run, because I don't care what that group has to say. I'm going to tell them what they want. Lack of inclusion, lack of diversity, that's what it's like. When companies telling you this is what you want, this is what you're looking like. I've talked to entrepreneurs who've done this a lot to themselves. I'm making this product, I'm making a service. Well, have you spoken to these people? Have you listened to these people? Do you work with any of these people? Well, no, that's what they want. How do you know? Remember being a teenager and your parents would do that to you? This is what's best for you. And maybe they had an idea, but they didn't respect you enough to even listen. Okay, well, I'm going to take it to another level. What if you're dealing with a person at work? They're not listening to you. You're telling them everything wrong with the product. How many of us as employees have seen this? Well, we've talked to a manager. Hey, this ain't going to work. People don't want this. People don't like this. People don't like this product. And we're being told. See, that's when you're not listening and you're not understanding who you're talking to, and you're not actually trying to communicate, because you're not trying to be a part of that community. As a small business owner, you have the best opportunity to be a part of a community, because you are automatically part of the community. Give you one last example of, and I know I'm kind of going around different areas, but I'm showing you how what I haven't seen enough of, when I hear people talk about, and I can understand DEI, like I said, from a political standpoint, from just an overall social standpoint, right? Because it really impacts everything. It's not one thing it impacts everything. It's our entire country, right? It's our entire world. But the initiative is really, of course, at least get it start from a business and economic standpoint, to where we can at least see some change and opportunity there. But I wanted to hit you as a small business owner, because that's what matters to us right now in this conversation. And I'm thinking about you, not myself. But it's an opportunity and a topic that can help you as well as myself. I'll give you a great example. There's a cafe. Now, this is exactly what I talk about when a business, one, doesn't have people who work within the company. In other words, the ears, because, echo chamber, right? They're more likely, surprisingly, a company will more likely listen to somebody who's inside the business than outside the business. And I know what you're probably saying, that sounds kind of obvious. No, it doesn't, because think about it. If the business is not making product for the company, they're making product for the customer. So if they're not listening to the customer, that's a problem. Just keep that in mind. And if you're a small business owner thinking otherwise, think about what I just said. I talked to one of the owners and I explained. I said, it's kind of funny. One thing in this business that you don't have. I said, do you know you have a community around here that doesn't eat pork? You have a large community around here that doesn't eat pork. And he kind of looked. He's like, wow, you know what? You're right. Never thought about that. I said, yeah, you literally have hundreds of thousands of people within a few miles of here. And when I say a few miles, I mean, I'm literally saying actually really within a mile, not even a few miles, that go to a lot of businesses around here, because it's a shopping little area, right? So a good kind of little shopping district, if you will. And the majority of them don't eat pork. And they come into this area, in this neighborhood, not only the ones who live here, I'm talking about the people who just come into the neighborhood on a weekly basis, 3-4 times a week. And I never see any of them in this business because you don't have any items that are without pork. But there's 2 restaurants within not even a 5-minute walk have entire menus. One has an entire menu devoted to vegan, kosher, halal. And another one, the entire place is kosher and halal. They are always busy. So what the owner takes is, I'm missing out on an entire community of business. What do? They add vegan and they add vegetarian to the menu. And then they add items with chicken and turkey and then fish. And what happens? Business improves. When you're thinking about the community you serve and listening to the community you serve, and you want to be a part of the community you serve, the numbers don't lie. Now they're about to open up the 3rd location. That conversation between he and I happened 2.5 years ago. We're talking pandemic time, right? When businesses are struggling, businesses are closing. Sad to say, over a dozen restaurants have closed not too far from us. But he survived. He not only survived, he thrived. Now, I'm not citing this one, I'm citing multiple opportunities, but this is one of the main ones that helped him get new business and open up a new location. Not to mention better training with his team and a more diverse team. When people see, hear, and they know that they're being seen and they're being heard, they'll patron your business. They'll connect with your business better. One thing to keep in mind is that, and you know what? I'm gonna reference a quote where fantastic consultant for DEI programs made it perfect. It's the perfect statement that goes along with this. That is the genesis of why some of these programs exist. It was an attempt to try to create workspaces where more or all people can thrive. Business owner brings in new team members, brings in team members from the community, brings in team members who know the community, brings in team members who listen to the community and are part of the community. And then the business owner themselves listen to the community and become more of a part of a community. And they thrive as a business. And the team members thrive as a group. This is the kind of thing, as a small business owner, you can't pass up that opportunity. You can't pass up that opportunity to make ground and to succeed where others are failing. And when we come back, we're going to talk about where others are failing. We're going to look at the current landscape when we come back. All right now, y'all. So, There's a laundry list, as you can see. And every single one of these companies, I'm not going to break it down and get into every single one of these because it's a long list and the list keeps getting added. But let's look at it this way. It is impacting IT. It's impacting fast food. It's impacting, rough to say. It's impacting big box. And, I ain't gonna lie. Some of these stores, these are my regulars. These are my go-to regulars. Now, the funny thing is, when I say the numbers don't lie, I mean the numbers don't lie in both aspects. Although some of these companies had some record-breaking years, right? Including Meta, which had a record-breaking year, or at least from its standpoint, its records of advertising spend. Although it hasn't seen some of the years it has in the past, it did, grow leaps and bounds, and a lot of people do attribute that to kind of have people were scaling back from Google and ads and went more towards Meta ads. And of course, that's what Meta is really trying to compete, making sure it maintains that advertising network and being one of the bigger advertising networks. We've also seen some of these companies have had some horrible numbers. McDonald's had a rough patch recently, and not to mention Target. Its final quarter and its first quarter is not looking good, but the final quarter of last year, not looking good at all. Lost significantly lower than where they expected, definitely below their projections. And some can wonder, because these are the first companies to turn their backs on and leave those programs, how did that play a role? Because you have to keep something in mind. Remember, initiatives, marketing tactics, communications, relationships with communities. Okay, one of the corporations I used to work for, it was a staple of that corporation. People knew the business managers. People knew the general managers. People knew every cashier in those stores. People knew them. People knew who worked in every single store, who managed every single store, district managers of every single store, because it was a very community-oriented corporation. They haven't been that way in years. And we wonder why stores are closing, because there's a disconnect. When we see private equity, when we see VCs, well, not so much VCs. VCs really don't play a role in this per se, more so private equity. But when we see a lot of private equity come into play and they start buying up businesses and they get away from the brand of the business because they're only looking at a bottom line. It's funny. I don't think anyone in venture capital, well, like I said, not so much venture capital, more so private equity, but both. I don't think so many people in private equity honestly don't think they ever look at the fact of, do we ever think that it's the actions and the activities that we're taking that's hurting our business? And the reason why we have to constantly cut costs, because we're not making enough. And if the only way we make enough is by cutting costs, does that mean we're doing something wrong? I don't think anybody ever looks at that. Because it really seems like every time a private equity gets involved, that's the first thing they want to do is cut some costs somewhere to make more, as opposed to finding a way, well, why aren't we just making more? What's going on here? Because once again, if you look at the businesses that are removing the programs, just maybe one or two outliers. And if you know anything about, I'm not a statistician. That is not my area. Okay. I'm not an actuary or nothing like that. That's not my key. Those are not my main areas. But I know one thing: when it comes to data, when it comes to looking at this stuff, when you see the outliers, you don't go based on the outliers, right? Look at the trend. You don't go based on the outlier. So yeah, there's an outlier here and there, but for the most part, look at the companies that are removing these programs without a problem, eliminating jobs without a problem. And yet, they're also the companies that are suffering right now and have been suffering and have had horrible numbers, especially the years where they were looking at removing those programs most likely. Because if you're going to remove a program, for anybody who's worked in corporate, if you're going to remove a program like this, you know what that means? You do some planning. You can't just do that overnight. How much did you actually put into it in the first place? That's the first thing I would ask. How much effort and energy? And we've all worked for corporations where they put in some efforts and energy in a program that they said, an initiative that they wanted to do. But that initiative was like, we're not going to do it. Anyway, look at the companies that are maintaining. Look at the companies that are keeping these programs in one fashion or another, or at least going to communicate their efforts, right? That they're keeping it. And hey, I'm not behind the walls of every single one of these corporations, so I can't speak from that standpoint. All I can speak of was what they're saying. And then I look at their numbers. And then I look at their positivity ratings. And then I look at, most importantly, I look at where they're going. Are they growing? Are people going to work for them? Because if you have a company that nobody wants to work for, I don't care what kind of initiative you have. Nobody wants to be a part of that environment. And nobody wants to be a part of what you have and what's going on in your culture and your system. So when we come back, we're going to go over the opportunities that are there, because this is where we really need to spend the most time. The numbers that will help your business, and specifically, where they've helped businesses just over the past year, 2 years, and 3 years, in fact. Where are your opportunities? Can you identify them? Can you be like the cafe owner, right? That listened to me, drove around the neighborhood, hired a couple of people, changed up his menu, and now has 3 more locations? Or are you going to be like the other dozen businesses that are closing doors? Hope not. That's not the goal of the show. The goal of the show is to keep you going, to keep you moving, to keep you growing. All right. So we come back, we get into what are the numbers behind those opportunities that are there, where others are succeeding, have succeeded. What can you implement yourself? All righty then. Like I said, I'm not trying to drown you in numbers, but numbers are important with this, right? Because we're talking about the facts here, y'all. We're talking about the facts. All right. So because of these initiatives, $30.9 billion. $30.9 billion. The most ever awarded in a combination of loans, government grants, government project contracts, was awarded in 2023. Specifically, the number overall awarded was a lot bigger, but the most in the history awarded to women-led and women-owned businesses, $30.9 billion. The most ever in 1 year. These aren't corporations of hundreds of thousands. This isn't Amazon, right? This isn't eBay. This isn't Google. This isn't Meta. These are small businesses owned and led by women. Throw another one at you. Specifically, service disabled, veteran owned small businesses. $31.9 billion in spending towards those businesses in contracting and investment. Same year, 2023. Business owners protected, aided by these types of programs and initiatives, DEI programs and initiatives, getting opportunities. These are the other business owners that you should be working with. These are the other business owners these are business owners that may be in your community right now. What are they going to do with a lot of programs that are no longer there? Because remember, these are government contracts. These are investments, opportunities. Because they're hiring from the communities that they're a part of, the same as you should be doing. Hiring from your communities that you're a part of, hiring from the communities that you're trying to serve. The buying power of one of the most significant jumps in buying power ever, but one of the most significant jumps in buying power we've seen. So, and this is crazy scary, but one community's buying power went from 213 billion to 1.9 trillion. That is on a whole nother level We're not talking about in 75 years, 60 years, and 50 years. We're talking barely 30 years. That's one generation, truly, right? So kid's born, high school, goes to college, has a gig. And we see a community have a buying power. That is insane buying power. And the buying power means from every level of travel, consumer goods, we're talking about apparel, personal home care, grocery, doesn't matter. Energy, that's buying power in every aspect of your business. Are you speaking to these people? Are you connecting with these people? Are you a part of these communities? Of course, I got a story, y'all. I got a story. So a restaurant opened. I remember the week that it opened because I'm a foodie, y'all. Y'all know me. Come on now. I'm a foodie. So I go around. I'm stopping by. I'm eating. I'm getting my grub on. Blah, blah, blah. And I passed by one bakery. I'm like, okay, cool. New Panderia. I'm like, oh, for those who know me, they know I love my Panderias. They know I absolutely love bakeries that have Central American delicacies, everything from Guatemalan, Mexican, Honduran, because it's something about, I like my bread, I like my carbs, that's why I need to stay in the gym, and it just hits different. It hits completely different. That's why I love the community I'm a part of, but I digress. So one of my favorite ones, stopped by, grabbed what I was going to say one, but I was lying. Let me say, I grabbed the 5 things that I wanted to buy. I did not eat them all in one day. It took 2 days, but it was a new restaurant that popped up across the street. I was like, oh, cool. Well, you know what? Tomorrow I'll go there for lunch. Went there for lunch. Menu was very different because it was a health food spot. So I was like, oh, this is really cool. Black bean burgers, Beyond Burger, stuff like that. I'm like, okay, cool. This is great. We don't have one of these, at least not within a good walking distance, right, of all the other little shopping centers and districts. Went inside, sat down. I just wanted a salad. I wanted something light, especially after all the baked goods I just eaten. And I was still across the street from the baked good places. So, I was thinking about going back. And I did not. Self-control. Customer walked in behind me. Well, I was sitting down. So technically it was behind me because the door was behind me. Customer walks in behind me, speaks to the waitress. Now the customer, primarily speaking Spanish. Waitress couldn't speak Spanish at all. Okay. Hey, who am I to judge? I can't speak Spanish. So, Español un poquito. And I still probably butchered that. Still trying. Duolingo ain't working. Just saying. I'm trying though, but I'm trying. Anywho. Waitress goes to get another waitress in the back. Waitress speaks very little Spanish. She's trying to communicate. She's trying to connect. But you can tell her face. She's like, I'm just going to give up because I don't know what the question is. But then another customer walks in. Keep this in mind when I'm talking about the community. Another customer walks in. She turns to the first customer because she sees the interaction, what's going on. She speaks Spanish. She speaks English. So she kind of works as a translator. Lady had a question about one of the dishes on the menu. Surprisingly, it was the dish that I was going to order. Glad I didn't order it, just saying, because I saw that thing come out. Did not look as appetizing as that picture. I was perfectly happy with my salad. But I'm looking at three employees. 1, 2, and 3. None of them speak Spanish. The community I'm in, I just mentioned. I went to one of my favorite panderias, went to one of my favorite bakeries. My community has a ton of restaurants where I would say at least half the staff, if not the entire staff, is bilingual, if not trilingual, because the community is made up of primarily people who speak 2 languages. You can't build a business in a community where you can't speak to the people. And if not for that customer coming in, they could have lost that business. I bring that up because this is what is happening when we want to cut ourselves off to being inclusive. These business owners who receive these funds over the past 2 to 3 years, they are making businesses, but also they're making jobs. And they're connected to communities that if you're not a part of it, you don't know what opportunities are there. And sadly, you're missing out on business growth. You're missing out on potential customers. You won't have an opportunity every time for a customer to walk in and speak the exact same language or speak the exact same terminology, know over the same culture as a customer that can't get the service that they need to buy the product. That won't happen to everybody. The biggest expansion of the community I'm speaking of was in some of the largest, if not the largest, economies in our country alone: California, Texas, Florida. Buying power. I'm not talking about from the business owner's perspective. I'm saying as a business owner, you need to be listening. The buying power. So if you don't have marketing and advertising that speaks to the community, if you don't have customers and customer service that connects and can translate and actually listen and get the feedback from that community, if you don't have leadership that can make decisions that gets the most strategically with working with these communities and being a part of the community themselves, you're missing out on, in California, $500 billion. In Texas, almost $400 billion. In Florida, $200 billion in spending power. Throw myself in here. I got an inquiry one time on Fiverr. Yes, we're on Fiverr. We have gigs on Fiverr. A lot of our, quick turnaround gigs, simple website reviews, things like that are on Fiverr. And I got an inquiry, but it was in Spanish. And I was like, okay. I never put in my profile I could speak Spanish or anything like that. So I'm like, okay, this person, they clearly just speak Spanish, right? Because of course, as we all know, some platforms have translators, but this is one of my first few years on Fiverr, right? And I was like, okay, well, that's cool. Because once again, hey, y'all, I'm trying. Okay, I've been doing this Duolingo thing for the past 3 years. It's Duolingo. Let's just be honest. It's the free Duolingo. I'm like a lot of people. All right, I'm trying. But I understood the message mostly. Not that bad. Believe me, I'm not that bad. But read the message. I was like, oh, this person is looking for, local SEO. And based on his description of his business, he was opening up a second location. And he had questions about Google My Business. As all you guys know, I love answering business questions. Have no problem doing it. Do it in our core spaces. Do it in our subreddits. I do that all the time. Put that up on Fanbase. I'm doing it all the place, right? I have no problem doing it. Love it. And I was like, okay, well, I can answer the question. So I answered the question. I let him know, hey, my Spanish is really rough. Please, I'm sorry, but I want to make sure that I'm answering this question. But I had to ask him, like, why did you find me? Because I'm like, that's very interesting, because I didn't even have Google Business Profile, in my Fiverr gig. It wasn't about that. It was SEO, but it wasn't local SEO. It wasn't anything like that. And you know what he said? He said, I found your article on your website. Because same name of my Fiverr account, the same name as the company, Ian Pro Ltd. He said, I found your article on Google. That was in Spanish. And the reason why we had articles in Spanish on my website was because I had one client who needed articles in Spanish. So what we started doing, I said, well, you know what? Why don't we just start putting articles also on our website in Spanish? We have a lot of small businesses where the owner speaks Spanish, the owner's bilingual, or they're focusing on, Spanish speaking markets, whether it doesn't matter, whether it's Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, Colombia, Panama, Mexico, doesn't matter. If they're trying to connect, we want to make sure that we can connect with people too. especially if we have a client who's trying to, connect with these markets. We need to showcase, hey, we can do that. We can be here for you as best we can. So brought in fantastic article writer, SEO, and UX UI specialist with Figma. She's from Venezuela. She said, yeah, I'd be glad to write some articles on different topics and translate some of the topics that we already have, which was perfect. He said, yeah, I found your article about TikTok. And then I found another article about SEO. So I found you here on Fiverr. We set up his Google business profiles. He had 3 locations in Spain. And he knew that a native Spanish speaker, a person who spoke Spanish, even if we're from Spain, but a person who grew up speaking Spanish, he knew they wrote the article. He literally said, he's like, I know you didn't use Google Translate for that because of the way some of the terminology was, because we authentically care. And that's what it's about. Made a long-term client who referred me to other business because I did something for another client. See, I'm not saying that to toot my own horn. What I'm saying is when you authentically care and put time and effort into it, it's going to come back to your business. No question. Because they gave us more proof of concept. They gave us more to our portfolio. They gave us more experience. They gave us more work. That kept freelancers working. That kept the contracts going. That opened up a new market. Everything you want from a business. Because we authentically cared about listening to a customer, giving them what they needed, and then saying, we're going to double, triple down on it. You know why we're going to double and triple down on it? We're going to double and triple down on it because it's what our market needs. Not just because of some personal, political, whatever belief, but because it's what the market needs, it's what the consumers want. And if we're not in the business of making products and services for the consumer, then go have an expensive hobby by yourself in your room. Right? Because if you're not doing what the consumer needs, the consumer wants, then you're not in business at that point. Okay. So keeping those things in mind, there's a bunch of other stats and numbers I could throw at you, but I would really like to hear from what you guys have to say. Like, where's an opportunity? What's a community? Right? Community that you could be a part of, you can connect with. And if you don't feel comfortable dropping a comment, that's cool. Think about this. What opportunities are there for you? And I know I'm throwing you I hate to say it, I'm kind of throwing you a losing argument because if you can't think of a community, I can tell you why. You don't have the right people in the room, because you don't have people part of the community in the room. And that's usually where it starts from. You can't be innovative if you have closed-minded thinkers. It doesn't happen that way. You can't speak to an audience and you don't know how to speak their language. Doesn't happen that way. Because one of the worst things you could be as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, is be so arrogant, is to think that you have all the answers, that there's no experts, there's no people outside of your realm of expertise. Because you know your business, you started your business. But the most effective business owners, the most effective leaders are the ones who bring in the experts from other areas. So look who's in the room with you. Is there a reason why you can't communicate? Are you like those 3, the 2 waitresses and the cashier who could not talk to that customer coming through the door? And they had to wait for another customer to come in to speak to that customer who probably could have taken that business. She probably could say, hey, I know another restaurant you can go to. or if they really wanted to be on some entrepreneurial stuff, you know what? These people, they don't speak your language. You know what? I should open up a restaurant and do it myself. Because that's what the best entrepreneurs do, right? They see that opportunity. So think about it that way. Don't keep that door open and lose out on all that business. And lose out on great great opportunities to make a long-term business, have a long-term relationship with the community. When we come back, we're going to go over the impact and how you can implement a few things and exactly some strategies and techniques that can help your business on top of what I just gave you when we come back. Talent and retention. So let's start it off like this. Talent and retention. If you have these types of programs, it's easy for you to attract new talent and to retain them because people feel empowered. People feel encouraged. As I brought up earlier, people feel involved and included and they feel comfortable. They want to stay there. I remember one of the best statements a manager said. It was a director, just to be fair, his title. He was a director, entire division. And people kept asking him, like, why does his team constantly do so well? I never forget this. He said, because they give a damn. And they give a damn because they want to be here. When people want to be somewhere, when they like where they are, when they enjoy what they do, doesn't mean that everything's perfect. I'm not going to give you no perfect. There's no perfection. When people like what they do, when they enjoy where they are, when they enjoy what they're doing, they will give it their all. When you get somebody giving their all, don't take that for granted. It expands the talent pool. I remember shockingly, and I brought this story up before, when I turned down the job that I was offered, one of my first real opportunities at a job, because I was like, I don't want to work for this kind of company. The woman was shocked. The company doesn't even exist anymore because they had a horrible culture. She was shocked. Who would turn down a job with this firm? Me, because it's not the kind of culture I want to be a part of. Stick to those guns. And let me tell you that a lot, especially nowadays, younger talent is doing that more and more. And yeah, I'm old, so I'm saying younger. Leave me alone. Stop poking at me. Anyway, customer reach. I brought this up specifically, my experience at the health food restaurant, right? And they're still there, by the way. They're still in business. And shockingly, I didn't finish this out. Shockingly, almost everyone there speaks Spanish. Shockingly. I've been there a couple times. I still get the salad. I'm not going to say the dish, but I'm not getting that dish that lady ordered. I'm so glad I didn't eat it. Anyway, whole nother sidebar. Customer reach, connecting with the customer base. Remember, if you can't talk to them, you can't speak to them, you can't listen, you can't understand, you can't absorb, you can't empathize and say, okay, this is what the customers, this is what the consumer, this is what the market, this is what the audience needs. A diverse workforce, a diverse team, diverse leadership. You can understand the pain points. You can understand the opportunities. And hey, I'm a marketer, but don't give me that whole, well, we have a market research firm that does the listening for us. That's nice. Well, if the marketing research firm looks like you, they're going to have the same problem. I'm going to be honest, because I've been there. I've seen it. I've seen a marketing research firm waste a lot of money and a lot of time and literally trying to convince the client, hey, you're just not listening. We're trying to tell you in the most polite way possible that you're missing the ball, because we don't make money by you just doing whatever we tell you per se. We make money by you being successful doing what we tell you. All right. That's why they spend the time, effort, and energy to do the research to make sure they're right. And you understand that and how to serve and how to connect with a diverse customer when you have a diverse team. You can expand your market. Hey, I have a business owner almost every month. They'll start a conversation off with me in Spanish. And I'm like, I'm learning, I'm learning. And they literally go, oh, I'm sorry, because we understand you're really trying. But you also have team members who can speak to us, who are always in the room. That's right. But I am taking the time with my Duolingo for free. But you know what? Forget it. I'm going to find me a Spanish course. Because frankly, it's a beautiful language, by the way. But frankly, to show the effort and to actually connect with people. But they keep coming back and working because they see the effort and they see that we're working with them. And they see we care. And that's what it's about. You strengthen connections with the community. You build them and you strengthen them by showing authenticity, bringing team members, making sure you're uplifting and empowering team members who are helping you grow. And everybody has an opportunity to be a leader. Everybody. You build trust and you build brand loyalty. And most importantly, with that brand loyalty, was that come from? Customer loyalty. You don't have a brand if they don't trust you. Branding is trust. That's what it is. It's not a logo. It's not some colors. Those are the consistency things, because that builds trust. But at the end of the day, it's all aspects that build that trust. The communication from visual, auditory, everything. So if I'm hearing the consistent message, if I'm seeing a consistent message, if I'm reading a consistent message. So you can't say, oh, well, I'm going to bring the one guy that looks like this to the meeting one day and say, hey, see, we're inclusive. No, that's not. It don't work that way. It definitely don't work that way. As the guy who's been brought to that meeting. If you're a business owner, don't do that. The team members who are involved in the campaigns, they're involved in the campaign. Top down, leadership strategy, everything. As much as they want to be, because we empower them to do that. Because you make an inclusive environment. Ooh, you see how I dropped that little word in there? That important word? Inclusive. You notice I'm not focusing on using just the words from the acronym, though. You know why? Because it's all aspects of the business. You don't have to constantly say it when you're actually doing it, because it's authentic. You're not trying to reassure yourself and the world around you. It's authentic. It's translated into everything that you do. But when you do integrate DEI into your hiring, your marketing, your customer service strategies, your overall business, it drives long-term success and sustainable growth. So once again, the breakdown of the activities where your initiatives will shine through and should be the most prominent. Your talent acquisition and retention. It will help you with your retention if you have that inclusive, empowering, and of course, diverse environment. But empowering respectful environment. And it'll show through your branding, and you'll be able to retain that talent. And better yet, you'll be able to get more talent from referrals and connections with the community. Just like the cafe owner who brought in those team members. And now he has enough team members to support 3 new locations. Customer reach, you'll be able to connect with the customers. So you can communicate with the customer better because you know how they want to be communicated with. You know how they want to be spoken to. You're listening to them because you can listen to them. You can understand them. You will build customer loyalty, which will bring brand loyalty, because there'll be consistent efforts and transparency in those efforts. All of which coming together will give you that competitive advantage. And yes, you're not trying, or you don't necessarily have Target right now, or you don't have, Meta right now. But the opportunities are there to where you can take market share in your own target audience, in your own target market. So if a Target closes because they can't support the staffing, because staff doesn't want to work in that type of environment anymore, because the environment isn't empowering them for diversity, maybe you don't have a store the size of a Target, but you can make sure that area doesn't become a food desert. You can make sure that area has the services it needs from a consumer standpoint, consumer goods, bath and beauty products, things like that, apparel, clothing, services that they need. If you have an IT business and you're one of the, I hate to say it, but IT companies have started to dial back as well, you could take market share from them. Because now you have the coders, you have the programmers, you have the desktop specialists, you have the technicians. that can communicate, that can connect with the small business owners that need these things, or your small business that works with other small businesses, maybe your B2B. And like so many I've already met, how many people are not going to shop for specific products on Amazon anymore? They're going to go to local shops only, whether it be to their website or whether it be in store. And this is a great opportunity for you to have a website that you can showcase. Remember, got a couple clients from Spain because I had one article in Spanish. Although I had dozens up there, there was this one article that kept bringing people. It was one article because it kept getting traction because it was on my website. And it showcased we clearly have team members who speak Spanish, who write Spanish, who know SEO, who know graphic design, who know UX and UI. So they wanted to be a part of our business. Food for thought before we get into the book of the episode. Costco's net income at the time of this recording is up 18.8%. Already. Target is down 12%. Think about that for a moment. Now, book of the episode, what to read. Responsible marketing and how to create an authentic and inclusive marketing strategy. Now, everything I brought up, you notice I didn't use the term marketing a lot. I use the word marketing a lot. But it all goes into marketing because marketing is everything. It's all forms of communication and connecting with an audience. And the Anthem award-winning author, Anthem, which is one of the most prominent awards in all of literature. Lola breaks down what inclusive marketing truly is and how it should look. She's an inclusive marketing strategist, but on top of that, business owner for running a boutique consultancy to where she's worked with marketing and branding leaders from pretty much every industry to executive coaching and training. What should always be taken into account when coming up with a marketing strategy is authenticity. And it might sound weird if someone asks a question, well, how do I be authentic? But that is sometimes a question you should ask from a business perspective because a business is its own entity. It's hundreds, maybe even thousands of people coming together, right? What is our identity? And once you know your true identity and your why, you can be authentic. And if you're challenged with questions like that, that's why a book like this is important. Because she goes over how critical and how important and impactful just being authentic is, but also having that inclusivity. That's what shines through the authenticity. Remember, I didn't use Google Translate. I went to a team member who likes to write, who enjoys to write, but is a UX designer. And say, hey, these are topics I want us to write about. I can write them in English, but I would also like to have it in Spanish. And I want to make sure it's from an actual voice who speaks, knows the language, knows the culture, because that's authentic. Because you're trying to connect with people. How does this matter to a market? Yes, it matters to a market, but it might be slightly different. In the way we say things, and the terminology we may use. There's nothing wrong with being admitting to that because that's the fact. That's authentic. But then we can bounce in ideas and make sure, hey, the facts are the same of how to work with these tools, how to work with these platforms. So one article turned into 5 articles, turned into 10 articles, turned into dozens of articles, which turned into clients. And Lola's book goes into things like that and how to bring that authentic voice, how to find authentic voices, and how to build out your team, and how the actions that are necessary will showcase your growth and will showcase your brand for what it should be, which is a diverse brand, a brand that speaks to many different people. Because at the end of the day, it's about what the brand represents, not necessarily those other things that people want to dwell on. It's inclusive. And finally, she leaves it with continuous improvement and how to build on it. Action. Remember, every book I suggest is all about action. Every book we recommend, it's all about reading a book, implementing it. And I made the mistake in the past of saying, read the book and then, identify, here's some ways. No. Implement as you read, because you're going to learn as you go. Continuous improvement. Fantastic book by Lola. Responsible marketing. How to create an authentic and inclusive marketing strategy. Link is in the description. Check it out. Remember, this is what the best leaders and the best entrepreneurs do. They don't have to be the expert right off the bat. They may never be the expert in every aspect, but they identify, hey, this is an area where we need improvement. This is an area of opportunity. This is an area where we can be better. And we're going to connect. And I'm going to find ways for us to be better. Here's a great tool for you to get started. Here's a great tool for you to improve. Get it going. Fantastic. But let me know what you think. Drop a comment. Let me know what you think of this book. And what area maybe you needed the most improvement. Like, hey, you know what? Maybe we just needed more team members to get to understand, the world around us better. Okay. Or maybe we had the team members. We just weren't empowering their voices. Or maybe we had the voices. We had, maybe we had the team members. Just the environment maybe needed some adjustments. That can happen. And there's nothing wrong with admitting that. Improve on it. Fix it now before it becomes a lawsuit. Just being honest out there. I got to throw in a bad joke. Come on now. I haven't dropped a dad joke in a minute. Anywho. With that, gotta leave you something. I can't leave you without, I can't do that. So we got a link to the American Marketing Association. Great resources that they have at the website on inclusive marketing, connecting with audiences, diversity. Because once again, marketing is all about communication in every aspect of it. It's not sales. It's not just advertising. It's all aspects of building a relationship with an audience. Don't have that customer walk in that door one day. You built a business in their community and you can't speak to them. That's not acceptable. You built a business in the community and you're not even providing product or service that the majority of the community can partake in. That's not acceptable. If you're running that kind of business, you don't need to listen to my show. Just being honest. Just being honest. Anywho, I know you're like, dang, Aaron, you got kind of rough there a little bit. I believe in tough love. You know that for a fact. I've said it multiple times. Anywho, check out the links. Let me know what you think of the book. Link to the book is in the description. And we got some really cool episodes coming up. Although, I've had a couple of suggestions, because I asked for this a while back, a couple of suggestions for episodes. Let me know if there's a topic you guys want us to cover, because not the next episode, but the episode afterwards, after the end of the episode, is based on a suggestion that was dropped in our core spaces. And it's a fantastic one. It actually, I was shocked that it got more comments than I expected, because people were just like, hey, this is a topic. A lot of people had a question about the same topic, and someone suggested as an episode. And others was like, yeah, I would love an episode about that. So please feel free. Drop a comment. Drop the comment on YouTube. Drop the comment on YouTube of a suggestion or a topic you want us to cover, because I kind of almost lost this one in core spaces. And I would want to make sure that, I was behind on questions if you've been listening to me on my other channel. Drop one in there, because I would love to know if there's a topic you want us to cover and get more into it. And we're hopefully bringing on a couple more team members who can help us on a few pieces of research. We have some great team members who are helping us out now. And we just want to make sure we have the show moving as efficiently as possible and getting you the answers you need. So drop a comment of what episodes you also like and put that in our YouTube comments. Until then, y'all, I've been your host, Aaron Muhammad. This has been the Ambition Show. Thank you so much for joining us. Best to you and yours. Peace.